So again, we have some instructions. Now, you might, one of the things that I work at a university, I get my students to do a green book valuation. And this is a methodology which is set out by His Majesty's Treasury now. And they use it to, so the government wants to know the impact of government on markets. And one of the things they have done, and they've built up over a number of years, is what we call the Green Book, i.e. we're starting from the situation where we have no government, and we want to know that if government does intervene in the market, is it a good thing or a bad thing? Because HM Treasury want to be able to measure its impact, and it obviously doesn't want to harm the market in any shape or form. And of course, it wants to make sure that if it does enter the market, it does it in the most efficient way in terms of what we call value for money. So this is a methodology which is applied right across government, but it also applied to a number of sectors, which basically is very akin to the issues that you're dealing with, which is it looks at the impact of policy on the residential as well as the commercial market. And therefore, what I've done is I've written a spreadsheet which actually mimics that framework and allows you to then to use it and using the data sets that are available. The government has produced, if you look at item 5, it's produced 4 versions of the Green Book for land value estimates for policy appraisal. The most up-to-date one is May 2020 at April 2019 prices. So we're waiting for the next version, but that doesn't matter because we can actually do it ourselves, because this appraisal spreadsheet does it for you. And so what I've done is I put in all the data, and I've used the context of Brighton and Hove, okay, because that's where I've been doing some work. And what it is here's the nature of the scheme. It looks at a scheme of a hectare of land, 10,000 square meters, 35 units or houses. We've got 3 types in terms of size, and we've got all the inputs that you'd normally apply, all the fees and finance and the profits that we are seeking and the time period. But what I've set up is an appraisal framework where you've got to apply build costs and market price data depending upon where you are in space. So what I've done is I've done it for Brighton. So what we've got is here is the sort of spreadsheet. You look at the sort of left side, it looks at all the important costs, values and costs and the rates, and it goes all the way down in the calculations and so on, all the way down there. And I put all the data in. Okay, so what I want to do is I want to model the impact of policy and the costs on this market. So if we take all that off, put them to 0, now we have what we call a green book. There is no policy, and I want to turn to that to lower quartile prices. So this is the green book situation for Brighton, and it generates all the costs, values and costs, profit, and we get, let's get rid of these. And what we've got is a residual land value at the bottom here. And in Brighton, the data set says the value of land in Brighton per hectare is around about 7.16 million. In fact, if we go up here, Brighton in 2019, it was 7.16 million. So we're mimicking the calculations done by government, i.e. the Valuation Office Agency, using the district valuers, using the methodology set out by HM Treasury for residential development in Brighton. And we've mimicked that by the prices and the costs with no policy at all. So what we do in this calculation, we just copy and we paste value there. And miraculously, we get the first part of our chart. That's the land value, policy opposition. Now, this spreadsheet then says, okay, let's introduce some policy. So these are the numbers. In Brighton, we want to deliver 40% affordable homes, and we're going to discount them to market value of 35% on average. So that's the homes for sale, first homes, the 80% affordable homes as well, and then of course affordable homes for rent at around about 55%. So overall, a 35% discount to market value. Because we know that value now has gone down, we know it's gone down because we're only collecting 65% of its worth. The land value here at the bottom should be lower, and it is. So we copy and we paste it there. Again, paste value. And the consequence is that if we deliver affordable homes in this market, we know that the land value has gone down by a quarter. And if we look, we've now got, it shows that, in fact, yes, the land value with affordable homes is now lower than an all market scheme, i.e. the Green Book position. So we're layering in additional costs, which are set out in the local plan, and they're legitimate costs, which we need to take account of. Now we can introduce some Section 106, which are the mitigation measures, the schools, the doctor's surgeries, the open space, the active travel, all the sort of stuff that makes a place work. And we say all of that is about £150 per square metre. That's an extra cost. Our logic says if we have to carry more costs, then the land value should come down. Let's have a look at it. And yes, it's that figure there. Copy and paste. So again, now the overall land values come down by over 30 percentage points. So again, our diagram shows that's the case. So we're looking at that as we add in more policy, we know a priori, before we do the calculation, that the land value is going to get less. Now we've got to pay for SIL, which in Brighton is 120 for housing. And again, when we look at it, extra costs, it depresses the land value. Copy and paste. And now the SIL has driven the land down by another 3 percentage points to just under 34%. And again, it comes out. So every time we introduce policy, every time we carry the cost of that policy, it's driving the land value down. We find that there's some additional costs we've got to carry because of the site circumstances. And we need to deal with that because we might be reclaiming the land and say it's £75 per square metre. We know it's an extra cost Nothing else has changed. Therefore, the budget to buy the land now is that figure. And again, if we copy and paste it, we've now got another calculation and another chart. So we're adding these costs, and we shouldn't be surprised that if we actually have to carry these costs because of the site circumstance, in this case, it's strategic costs, which make the place work. It connects the site to its location. It might be a small bridge. It might be a new roundabout. It might be to pay for some walkway, which actually allows proper access from one part of the town to another. Again, copy and paste all legitimate costs which are paid for by the site, and it drives the land value down. So now we've got down nearly 40 percentage points lower. So every time we add in some costs, and the lower quartile costs set up here are typical for the large house builders. But if we've got a smaller developer, our costs are higher. So let's mimic that. If it's a smaller developer doing the work, and their costs are higher because they don't produce economies of scale, the scale that the larger developer does, then the land value is now lower. Copy and paste. Paste value. So now we've completed our valuation. We've included all the costs arising from development, and it's driven the land value, where we started with no policy, i.e. this rather hypothetical world of no government. And now we've layered in all the policies specific to a site in Brighton Hove, and we can see that the value of the land has come down quite considerably. And so that tells you something about the power of policy. And then we can compare whatever the sum of money we've got here against the benchmark land value for the site. And so long as there's enough money at this point, okay, carrying all these costs, we can then judge whether the site is viable or not. So this again, it's a matter really of you just understanding the actual intellectual and theory behind the actual calculation, and just really understanding that when you have costs, they have to be paid for. If they're legitimate and they are set out in the local plan, then you can seek them, and you've got legitimate right to secure them. The SIL costs, you've got no, if you want to develop, you have to pay them. And these are costs which are legitimate because it allows the development to proceed, to be completed. And therefore, it's very, very important that you understand the power of policies in your plan. And of course, they wouldn't be in your plan if, in fact, the adopted policies have been passed and are deliverable. And if they're deliverable, therefore, they are viable.